Right then, let's talk about Kate Bush Remastered. I'm sure many of us thought we'd never see the day that this happened. Yesterday, Kate released the first of 2 CD box sets. Kate Bush Remastered Part 1 contains her first 7 studio albums: The Kick Inside, Lionheart, Never Forever, The Dreaming, Hounds of Love, The Sensual World, and The Red Shoes. The rest of them come in 2 weeks' time in part 2. So I thought we'd take a long, hard look. So get yourself a cup of tea and sit down and relax, and we'll go through the whole of this box set, and we'll also look at the vinyl boxes as well, which came out yesterday. The first thing to say, I think, with this is the imagery on the front. As many of you will be aware, in 2011 Kate came back with Director's Cut. At the time, that was her first album in 6 years, where she created new versions of old songs. Now, that coincided with Fish People, the launch of her new label, and this imagery was very much prevalent at the time. And this particular image, which is kind of a naked man with a fish head on a swivel chair, it was used in Director's Cut in the booklet for Never Be Mine, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So this is the booklet for Director's Cut. This is the vinyl booklet that came with Director's Cut. And if I just flick through this now, so you've got this theme going on with people with fish heads on. This woman's work. And then this next one here, there's Never Be Mine, so you can see where that image comes from. Any Kate Bush fan that isn't a big enough fan to have bought Director's Cut is probably wondering what the hell this is doing on the front of a Kate Bush box set. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think it's a very poor choice. I mean, this image doesn't sum up anything to do with Kate's career, so it's pretty disappointing that she's carrying on with this kind of imagery. The vinyl box sets don't have this at all, so I don't really understand why the CD box does. The other thing about this is it's quite curious, the design, because it's a kind of top-down thing. So basically the top lid, it's a lift-off lid top, so you lift off the lid like this, you know, and you're kind of pulling the CDs up. It's slightly bizarre, really. You think these are the CDs, you know, they should be sideways, but the writing doesn't read sideways, it reads like that. So I don't think it's ideal, it's slightly weird. The other problem with this kind of design is that you go to pick up the box and, you know, the lid comes off. So I'm not sure in terms of practicalities how good it is, but anyway, so that's the CD box. The other thing is, so Kate has reused 2011 imagery for the outside of the box, and then the inside she's reused this design which was commissioned for Before the Dawn in 2014. Apart from the fact she obviously likes it and she thinks it's cool and it represents what she's all about now, you've got a 2011 and a 2014 imagery on a box set which spans from 1978 to 1993, so I don't actually think that's very representative, and I think they haven't used this on the vinyl box set. So personally, I thought it was okay for Director's Cut. I just think it's a poor choice in terms of representing that 15-year period of her career when, you know, the bulk of her work was created. Let's take the lid off and have a look then. So 7 albums in this CD box. There's 2 vinyl boxes that contain the same 7 albums that came out yesterday. I mean, I don't need to go through them, I don't think, but I will anyway. So you've got The Kick Inside, which was 1978. You've got Lionheart, which was 1978. You've got Never Forever, which was 1980. The Dreaming, 1982. Hounds of Love, 1985. The Sensual World was 1989. And then Red Shoes was 1993. And that was the album where Kate took a big break and didn't release anything for another 12 years. So we had to wait until Ariel in 2005. So there are the albums. These are all digipacks. They slot into this box, but there's no groove to kind of keep each one separately. this box, if you take it out, it's just a box. So it's not, the George Harrison box comes to mind actually. There was a George Harrison CD box in it, and it had grooves in it. I don't actually mind this, it's fine. Let's take a look at the individual CDs. Now the CDs are all digipacks. Again, I find that a bit disappointing because we've recently had the David Bowie box sets, Love and the Alien being the most recent one, and they've really gone to town with the presentation of the CDs. They haven't neglected the CDs and concentrated on the vinyl. They've created vinyl replica CDs with inner sleeves replicated and textures and all the rest of it. Kate has gone for a different approach, which is a kind of cookie cutter generic digipack for each album, and each album is a 6-panel digipack like this with a center panel for the disc and then the booklet contained in this bit here. Now as you can see, that the whole fish people thing is carried on to the CD design itself. That's the same throughout, we'll see in a minute. So you don't get a bespoke design that is in keeping with the era of the album, you just get the fish people design. So again, I think that's a poor choice to do that, but everyone will have their own opinion. The quality of the imagery on all of them is excellent. I mean, someone's gone to town on terms of restoring and enhancing the images. Interestingly, with the kick inside, there is actually a small design change. This Kate Bush here has been made bigger. It's slightly different. If I show you, that's the vinyl design, and this is the CD design. So they've actually made a change there. Not sure that was wholly necessary, but someone's decided to do that. So the cover looks good. I mean, it looks a little bit orange to me, but it looks good. I don't really like this front cover, I'll be honest with you. The Japanese one with Kate with the pink vest, to me, is much more iconic of this particular era. And I'm always amazed that EMI let Kate overrule them and went with this image. I mean, I guess she'd had a #1 with Wuthering Heights, so she was in a position of power. So yeah, all the CDs have a little quote from a lyric. You can, if you take the disc off, I mean, it's quite nice the way the design carries on underneath. Of course, the other thing to bear in mind is that, and we'll see this prevalent and a bit more obvious on some of the other albums, but these digipacks, they have to crop and slightly change the cover art to make it work in a rectangle format. Some of you will know that, you know, Paul McCartney with his reissues, he has a band down the side which allows you to maintain the square of the album cover. That's the positive side of that. The negative side is you could argue you kind of ruin the album cover by having the band there in the first place, but Kate's gone for the slightly cropped approach. So if you compare this image, if you look at the bottom of those images, you'll see the vinyl image actually carries on vertically a bit more. I mean, it's quite subtle, especially on this one. In the Dreaming, it doesn't work very well at all. But so this is the CD, and all the booklets are in here. Now the booklets, I have to say, are really disappointing. I mean, they're very, very thin paper, and I mean, there's nothing in them. It just recreates the original CD booklet. I mean, this is a common theme and a common thread throughout these, but there's no notes. There's no. Kate hasn't written any words to, you know, summarise the era or how she feels about the record, so it's really disappointing. I mean, I know we've come to expect that kind of thing from Kate. But on the Before the Dawn booklet, in the programme for Before the Dawn, if you're lucky enough to go to one of the gigs, the programme was amazing, and Kate wrote in quite a lot of detail in that programme about the background and the development of that particular live show. And it was funny, it was interesting, it was enlightening, it was absolutely fantastic to read that. And why she can't do the same for her own albums is beyond me, really. I mean, she must be proud of some of these, especially the later ones like The Dreaming and Hounds of Love. I mean, they're sort of renowned works. And her first album's amazing, The Kick Inside's amazing. Even if she doesn't want to do it, why she doesn't commission someone else, or it's pretty disappointing. I mean, maybe you know, we can hope that there's some kind of archive deluxe versions of these planned, but I mean, I'm not holding my breath. So these booklets are basically close to useless, you know. Everyone's got the lyrics a million times over. The credits are the same, except noting the fact that they're remastered by James Guthrie and Joel Plant. So that's that. I mean, these literally arrived yesterday. I've listened to the Dreaming and it sounds amazing. So I think these are going to be stunning audio wise, but I think presentation wise I would just say they're kind of good, no more or no less. And I'll show you some comparisons in a minute, because I have got another CD box set from the Japanese one which came out in 2007, which I can do some comparing and contrasting just to show you what I'm talking about. The back cover is, you know, similar to the back cover of the album, but not identical. What they haven't done is they haven't gone for the vinyl replica thing, so the front cover looks the same, but the back cover doesn't try and replicate the vinyl. So that's the kick inside. Now Lionheart's quite a good example of, you know, opportunity missed, what they could have done. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just taking a quick pause here to show you this box set. Now this box set came out in 2007, I think it was. Basically, Kate's albums were released I think it's up until The Red Shoes. So basically the very same albums that are in this new CD box were reissued in 2007 in Japan, and it was the full vinyl replica CD. Disc Union in Japan, a retail outlet in Japan, they commission. This is an official box set, it's not a bootleg or anything like that. But they have this weird situation where they'll do a deal with a label and they create these box sets. And you only get the box if you buy every single album from their store, and you can't get them delivered by mail, you have to physically go there. So there's a great eBay trade from Japanese dealers, Japanese fans who buy these things and then flog the boxes or internationally. But anyway, look how stunning this is, this box. It's got the Never Forever artwork on the front, and then as you turn it around, it kind of merges into a bit of the Ninth Wave from Hounds of Love. And it's just gorgeous. It's really nicely done. You've got the little iconography here. It's got an inner drawer which comes out and holds all the CDs. And then I don't actually have all of them for some reason. I was looking at this the other day. These are the sort of vinyl replicas. So we'll take a look at Lionheart and compare and contrast, okay? So this is the new Lionhearts. This is in the 2018 remastered box set. I mean, the cover looks stunning. I mean, I'm not here to criticize something that shouldn't be criticized. The richness and the depth and the blacks and the contrast in the colors in, I think, virtually all the remasters looks amazing. So the photos have never looked better. But this is the same digipack style. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with these. It's just what they could have done. It's just a little opportunity missed. I mean, no one can argue that Fish People design, that CD, is in keeping with the sort of the autumnal hues of Lionheart. I mean, it's just not. It looks borderline stupid, I think. So anyway, so that's Lionheart. The same thing, you get the same booklet here, look. Same booklet. Same kind of booklet. And it's basically the lyrics and that's it. There's no new photos from the era, no notes, no nothing, so that's that. But let's compare it to this is the Japanese one that came out in 2007. So I'll just quickly take this off. Got the obi strip and all that. So there's the new one on the left and the 2007 vinyl replica on the right. So obviously the right one is a square for a start, and that is how the original album was designed. So there's a bit more height and a bit more space below the lion's head. You know, you can see the difference. But of course, one difference is the writing is the right size for a start. If you look at this, there's actually a subtle increase in the size of the typeface on the new one. So that's one change. The other thing is the new one, there's no embossing, okay? That's just printed on. And it doesn't say Lionheart on the back here either, but as anyone who's got the original record will know, Lionheart is embossed, and so is Kate Bush. In fact, it's embossed on both. And this vinyl replica CD maintains that embossing. I mean, we all know how good the Japanese are. They've just basically replicated it exactly, the vinyl. So this is the gatefold. And then there's a kind of inner sleeve. But look at that design of the CD. I mean, that's much more in keeping with what you'd expect. You know, it's got the EMI design, etc. Even if they can't use that EMI design anymore because Parlophone are now part of Warner's, they could do what they do with David Bowie. They could have recreated it using different words, you know, Kate written large or something like that. So would I have preferred this kind of vinyl replica in the new 2018 box sets with little enhancements like embossing and this, that and the other? I think yes, I would is the answer. But we haven't got that. We've got digipacks. This is a good example that I was just saying earlier, how the photos have never looked so good. You can see there the quality of the reproduction on the new 2018 is much better than the Japanese ones. So credit where credit's due. While I don't particularly like the digipacks, the imagery looks better. Slightly less pronounced, I think, on the front. It's a bit more subtle. I think the Japanese one's, you know, not far off where we are with the new one. But anyway, that's Lionheart. Okay, so this is Never Forever. This is Kate's first #1 album, 1980. And I mean, the artwork for this album is gorgeous. This is one of my favourite visual sort of presentations of her record. I mean, this is just, you know, fascinating, really. And just the colours and the typography, there's just everything about it works really, really well. And this is one instance, interestingly enough, if I take the disc out, you can see that it carries on behind the transparent plastic. But this is one instance, I mean, bizarrely, because you kind of think, well, if you're willing to change it for this, why didn't you do it for the others? But this is one instance where the period artwork seeps onto the disc. That's the back cover there. Same thing with the booklet. It's just effectively the same as the other CD booklet. Lyrics, credits, and then that's it. The booklets are very thin, you know, it's kind of disappointing. A quick look at what you could have won with the vinyl replica version. How nice is that? So this is a proper replica of how it would have looked. So that's what they could have done. So on the Japanese one, you see they even, it's a bit like the Beatles remasters, they sort of recreated the old inner sleeves. That's the disc design for the Japanese one. Now this is the only one I've listened to in full. I cranked this up yesterday and it sounds absolutely stunning. It sounds amazing. It's a cliche, but it does sound like the old blanket's been taken off and you can hear things you couldn't hear before, bits of, you know, synth line, bits of backing vocals. They've done an amazing job, and I do expect that to be the same throughout these records. So in terms of sound quality and the audio, I don't think there's going to be any problems at all. So this video is about what these look like, you know, the overall presentation. I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. I have a real problem with this Dreaming cover because there's just too much cropping going on. The album cover is supposed to be square. It's now cropped to the extent you can't even see the keyhole that this key that's being passed is supposed to go into. I mean, the sort of narrative of the imagery is, you know, lost in a way. Also, so this is the Japanese one. If you compare them, it's too big for me. The writing of the Dreaming is now too big because vertically the dimensions have come down. The Dreaming, it just seems a bit too prominent. The sort of balance and the subtlety is lost a little bit. That you can see again, you know, like with Lionheart, the photo looks stunning. I mean, it looks, and because these are all glossy, You can see there with the shine, because these are glossy, all the sort of darkness and the depths and the contrast come out really, really well. So there's no problem with that, but it just looks weird. I mean, you're looking at a rectangular album cover. I just don't like it particularly. Again, on the back here, they're not trying to replicate the vinyl replica for the vinyl record, because this is what it would have looked like. So they go for, on the CD, they're just going for clarity, I think, more than anything else. So this is the inside of the digipack for the Dreaming. They've sort of made a bit of an effort, I think, to try and tie this in with the colour of that disc. The booklet has the lyrics in it. They've kind of recreated the style of the lyrics as per the original. Interestingly, Rolf Harris's credit is gone from the Dreaming, so his didgeridoo playing sounds like it's still intact, but I don't know if you can see that there, but the credits for the Dreaming, he's no longer listed. The reason I mention that is because if you didn't read on the blog, Rolf is also missing from Ariel, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. His vocal contributions no longer on there. But anyway, that's the Dreaming. I can never decide whether this is my favourite Kate Bush album or whether it's Hands of Love. Probably it's the Dreaming, I think, to be honest. It's an amazing record. I mean, I played it yesterday and it's just still as bonkers as it's ever been. Never seems to kind of sound normal, however many times you listen to it. This is the big hit record, of course, the big comeback, 1985. No, it looks great. The front cover looks very, very good. Again, the photograph, I don't think it's ever looked better. But this is another one where there's just something about the text and the fact that this isn't a square. I just find it very annoying. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Compare it to that. There's something the visual square, having the same height and above and below the photo as you've got left and right. I mean, it's just visually, that's what works. And looking at it, I didn't notice this yesterday, but you can see not only is this space here less than it should be, but that and a combination of increasing the size of the typeface, because look at it, compare the left and right there. This is the Japanese one that I'm holding on the right, which replicates the vinyl exactly. But that little subtle thing, they've bumped up the typography and they've made it a rectangle for the digipack. Those two things combined, it makes a bigger difference than you might think. It's just visually, it just doesn't look as good. It really doesn't. Of course, the original CD centered Kate Bush and Hands of Love. They've reverted to the vinyl here, but kind of ignored other vinyl attributes, if you like. I much prefer the one on the right. I mean, it just works. It's just the original design. It just balances better. But the photo looks good. There's no doubt about that. And then on the back looks good enough. That photo of Kate, the Ninth Wave photo, has always been very, very interesting photos. Just, she looks amazing. It's kind of quite mysterious, that photo. Obviously, in that photo, she's supposed to be the person floating in the water trying to survive the night. That's the original vinyl. That is the vinyl replica from Japan, just as a quick comparison. So it's not massively different. Doesn't have the quote on it. Look, there you go. The quote is missing. But as I say, they're not trying to replicate the vinyl anyway. So there's a bit more pink on this Fish People CD to try and tie it in a bit more. I suppose they made a bit of an effort. There is that quote. They put the quote there on here. And there's the booklet. I don't really see the point in replicating the cover with the front of these booklets, to be honest. They should have it doesn't need to have the front cover on it, does it? This is a booklet. This isn't on show. So why not just do something totally different? Why replicate the cover? It's a bit of a waste, if you ask me. The reason you did that in the old CDs is because this slid into the jewel case, and this was the front cover. In a digipack, that isn't the case. So what's the point? Why replicate the front cover on the front of the booklet? It doesn't make any sense. I don't think anyone's thought that through. Same kind of thing inside. It's just the original lyrics. That's it. Yeah, that's the. I mean, that's a nice photo. That's the alternative photo. I think, is that the one they used on the Hair of the Hound video? Can't remember. I think it might be. So that's Hounds of Love. I did play a few tracks from this. Running Up That Hill sounds pretty immense. It's a bit more balls on the drums, I think, than there is on the original. But I have to withhold judgment, to be honest, because I haven't given it a proper crack of the whip yet. Moving swiftly on, this is Essential World. Stunning front cover. In fact, this is used for the front cover of the second of the 2 vinyl boxes, which we'll look at in a minute. Again, they've tried to sort of, with the hues of the Fish People CD, they've tried to sort of tie in a little bit, I guess. Quote from Between a Man and a Woman. Now, the big thing everyone's noted on this is that Walk Straight Down the Middle is no longer the last track. That was technically a bonus track on the CD. So Kate has removed it from this CD. So the album ends with this woman's work, which is a much better idea. It's as per the vinyl. Quick look at the booklet. Again, not really too much to get excited about booklet wise. So that's Essential World. And last but not least, the Red Shoes. The world's least favourite Kate Bush album. Although I must admit that it's grown on me a bit since Before the Dawn and since she redid some of the songs on Director's Cut. Not a whole lot to say about this. I mean, all this imagery looks very good, but booklet's very much the same as the original CD booklet, to be honest with you. So that, my friends, is the CD box set. You get 7 remastered albums in this box, in this presentation, for about 60 quid, which is actually really good value. It's obviously less than a tenner, and I do for each CD. And I do think, I mean, some of these albums haven't been touched for 40 years, the audio, I mean, the first 2 for instance. So this isn't the usual let's remaster it 6 years after it was released and make a big claim about how much better it's going to sound. I mean, some of these are genuinely going to sound very, very much better than they did originally. I mean, I've heard The Dreaming already and it blew me away. I can live with the box, but I just think the digipacks are very dull, and I just wish she'd done something a bit different. And the complete lack of any archive, scene setting, any historical commentary, booklets, hearing from Kate, producers, musicians. I mean, it's extremely disappointing, and it's not unreasonable to expect that. So the other thing with this is there's the bonus material which goes with these albums. So the 12-inch mixes from Hounds of Love, the B-sides, etc. All those rarities, they're all in the second box set, which is a bit annoying if you don't actually want to buy those later albums again. So like Director's Cut, Ariel, 50 Words for Snow. They're all quite recent albums. They don't fall in the category of really feeling like they need to be remastered. They're the kind of that's the box set you're more likely to skip, but you can't skip it if you want all the bonus material and the rarity. So you could argue a little bit cynical doing that. They could have had 1 CD in here and 1 CD in the next one, or 2 CDs and 2 CDs. But anyway, there you go. So that's Kate Bush Remastered Part 1. Now, so we're going to take a quick look at the vinyl boxes now. There's 2 vinyl box sets that basically cover this 1 CD box. So let's have a quick look. So this is the first vinyl box set. You can see there, Kate Bush Remastered in Vinyl 1. Slightly kind of clumsy wording if you ask me, but they could have called these something. They could have given them names, but anyway. So this box is the first 4 albums, so it's 1978 to 1982. They've chosen The Dreaming probably because it has the biggest, probably best picture of Kate from those records on the front. So that looks stunning. And then on the back, it also looks stunning. So you got the detail from Never Forever. And then you got the 4 albums with the track listings. So this looks great. You know, there's no naked bloke spinning on a chair with a fish head on him. Why? And why do CD buyers have to have Mr. Fishhead? and vinyl buyers get a much nicer presentation. Answers on a postcard, please. So let's get the one howler out of the way. If I show you the kick inside here, you will see it says the kick in SDE. Now I didn't know Kate was an SDE fan, but anyway, that's a major cock up. They're not all like this because many people have said theirs are fine, so be interesting to hear who's got one that's like this. How rare it is, I don't know. Commiserations to whoever was supposed to proofread those, because it's not, I mean, I've been in a similar situation. It's not funny, it's horrible, it's kind of stomach churning when you realise you've made a cock up. But even so, that's a bad mistake. Let's get these out. Right, so to be clear with the vinyl box, there's no booklet, there's no book, there's no anything. It's just the records. So the kick inside, thankfully spelt correctly on the front. So these do, unlike the CDs, these do replicate, not absolutely 100%, but they're fairly accurate representations of the original vinyl. There's no inner sleeves for the first few albums. 180 gram vinyl. The labels all do what the CDs do with these Fish People labels. It's got the poly-lined inner sleeves. There's not much to these because it's just a record and a sleeve. Lionheart's a bit nicer than the first album because you get the gatefold. Unlike the CD, you get the embossing. I'm trying to think whether this is the right size for the text. I think it might be. Yeah, they've maintained the embossing. It's also embossed on the back as it should be. The image looks great. And it's the gatefold that we all know. Same thing, vinyl record, polyline sleeve, Fish People label, etc. Never Forever looks great. Gatefold again. I do like gatefolds. Looks stunning. I mean, this is what we saw earlier on with the CDs. The CD from Japan replicated this. It's a slightly bizarre back cover. And again, the Fish People label does what the CD label did. Uses elements of the original artwork, which is nice. This is my favourite of the actual labels. So that's Never Forever. And finally, for this first final box, the Dreaming wasn't a gatefold. But this kind of presentation's been replicated. Actually, I forgot to point out. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to point this out. On the CD of the Dreaming, there's there looks what looks like to be a printing error there. It's hard. I don't know if you can see that in the light, but the words Kate Bush haven't come through on the Dreaming. Looks like some kind of colour printing cock-up. So it's missing completely, which is slightly weird. You can see it. You can see it just about, but it's very dark. But anyway, I forgot to mention that. I thought I'd better mention that. But yes, this is the Dreaming, the vinyl version. This is the first of the records that has an inner sleeve on it. So you don't get a polylined inner sleeve. They haven't get. Sometimes you still get the polyline sleeve and they put the replica inner sleeve separately. They haven't done that here. But this is very much the style of the original, this italic text. So there endeth the first box set, the first vinyl box. So let's look at the next one. So this is the second box set, remastered in vinyl 2, funnily enough. I mean, again, stunning front cover. No man with a smelly fish head on. Just Kate with a rose. That's what you want, isn't it? There's the back. That's obviously a Red Shoes era photo. And the albums here are Hounds of Love, The Sensual World, and The Red Shoes. So this is Hounds of Love. Looks good. The picture looks stunning. The original Hounds of Love vinyl I've got, the whole sleeve is laminated, but they've gone for a spot varnish for the new version, but not on the back. I think they probably should have spot varnished this one as well. The inner sleeve more or less the same. They've actually done some slightly different layout changes to the lyrics, and again the same Fish People label, but it's a bit more purpley this time. Hounds of Love wasn't a gatefold, of course, although interestingly, when Audio Fidelity did their reissue, which was from, this is it, from 2010, they did a gatefold version, but you can see the image reproduction is not very good. So if you compare that, this is the remaster from 2018. When you compare it to the new one, look how atrocious the one on the right, which was the 2010 Audio Fidelity reissue, look how bad that reproduction is. So that's Hounds of Love. Essential World is another album that isn't a gatefold. Great photo of Kate. And the inner sleeve just has the lyrics on, and that's it. And finally, back to a gatefold for the Red Shoes. This is a double album, of course, on vinyl. Feel a bit sorry for Analog Spark, the US label, because they were trying to license this. But that's clearly not going to happen now because Kate's brought her own version out. So 2 vinyl records. These are back to polyline sleeves because the lyrics are in the gatefold. Very glossy, very sort of high contrast. It looks good. I haven't listened to this yet because there's obviously various shenanigans going on with masters, and Kate did remaster this for the Director's Cut Special Edition from a different sort of analog backup tape or something. So it'll be interesting to hear how this vinyl sounds. But that is it. So just the 3 albums in the second box. Obviously the Red Shoes is the double. So they are the 2 vinyl boxes there. 1 and 2, they look amazing. And this is the CD box, which doesn't look so great because it's got a man with a fish's head on it on an office chair. But these should sound superb. I've given it a little bit of a listen with the Dreaming. I mean, as I said before, I'm going to withhold judgment a little bit. But I hope this video has given you a bit of a feel for how these look, and also an interesting comparison to some of the other presentations. We'll be back again. I'll be back again in a couple of weeks when this series gets finished with the second of 2 CD boxes and the third and fourth of the 4 vinyl boxes. Till then, this is Paul from Super Deluxe Edition taking a look at the Kate Bush remasters.